Okay, let's unpack this Amazon Web Services. It's vast, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's this seemingly endless collection of digital tools.
Right, and getting a handle on it can feel, well, pretty monumental.
Yeah, a bit overwhelming sometimes.
But that's exactly why we're here today. We want to dive deep into some resources that could act as, like, your compass, your map through AWS,
Hmm.
our mission to really pull out the crucial insights, the valuable takeaways, so you can build a solid understanding, the essentials, without feeling lost.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is the sheer ingenuity behind a system like AWS.
Yeah,
It's just a remarkable feat of human problem solving, and that's something our source material actually touches on.
totally. We've got these 3 Apress ebooks, all from 2023, focused on AWS. We actually found them through a YouTube video by Pages&Beyong.
Ah, right.
And the presenter made this point that really stuck with me, appreciating the human element behind these huge systems.
It's not just a side note.
No, it can actually help you understand the tech itself. It's grasping the why, not just the what.
Yeah, understanding that human part can sort of demystify things, even the really abstract technical stuff, makes it more relatable.
More practical, even.
Exactly. You shift from just memorizing features to understanding the logic, the creator's intentions.
So for this deep dive, we've really immersed ourselves in these books, pulled out the core concepts, the real-world applications, even some different viewpoints on navigating AWS.
Mm-hmm.
The goal, like always, is to give you, our listener, clarity, actionable knowledge,
Whether you're a developer, maybe in a leadership role deciding on cloud stuff.
or just curious. We think we've got something for you. So let's start with book number 1, Professional with Amazon Web Services. Professional with Amazon Web Services.
Right, this one's the big one. A substantial 666 pages.
Whoa.
Yeah, it signals right away it's comprehensive. The video presenter highlighted it's mainly for developers, dev teams, small or large,
And what caught my eye was the description, reader-friendly.
despite the page count.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Described as thorough, detailed, understandable, logical. Presents info from different angles. Sounds like a big help for a complex topic.
It does. And the presenter specifically mentioned it'd be really good for developers maybe coming back to the field after a break.
Okay.
Because the explanations are so detailed and logical, and they weave in reminders of key concepts, it helps you get back up to speed quickly.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical, I think. The book doesn't just list tools.
No, it actually compares them, explains what they do, how to install, set up, use them.
And crucially, gives recommendations. Which tool for which job?
That's super valuable. That why behind choosing one tool over another.
Because the best tool isn't always obvious, right?
Not at all.
Mhm.
So outlining the pros and cons in specific situations, that empowers developers to make smarter choices for their projects.
The video also mentioned something I found really intriguing. The authors actually point out topics they wanted to cover but didn't, to keep the book focused.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The presenter suggested this could be gold for anyone wanting to do more self-study, or even, aspiring tech authors. Shows real awareness.
That kind of self-awareness from authors is telling. It shows they were deliberate about scope, aiming for depth over just superficial coverage.
And it acknowledges how fast this stuff changes, too.
Right. Now, getting into some key tech the book emphasizes, there's a big focus on the evolution from virtual machines to containers to Docker.
Okay, that whole progression.
Yeah, apparently it even has comparison tables to really illustrate the shift and the benefits. Understanding that is pretty key for modern deployment.
It really is. It's not just history. It's about fundamental changes in how we package, deploy, scale things in the cloud.
Containers offer that portability, that efficiency you don't always get with VMs for certain jobs,
Another big plus seems to be the focus on clear terminology.
which is so important in this field.
Right. The video mentioned examples like comparing relational databases to Amazon's quantum ledger database, QLDB.
Which is for when you need that verifiable change log.
Exactly. And also clearly explaining relational versus NoSQL databases, those more flexible models.
Yeah, clear terms are paramount. It builds that solid foundation before you get into the more advanced stuff.
And just to give you a sense of the scope, it covered the basics too. Cloud computing fundamentals, AWS architecture.
The building blocks.
Yeah, and here's a stat for you. When it was written, AWS had around 175 services, 85 of them free tier.
Wow. That number alone shows the power, but also the complexity.
It really does. Which highlights why you need resources like this book to navigate it all.
Absolutely. Helps you figure out which of those 175 services you actually need.
It also gets into storage, specifically S3, the simple storage service.
Ah, yes, S3.
And it makes a crucial distinction. S3 is object storage, not a traditional file system.
Right. Think unique labels in a warehouse, not folders.
Exactly. And that difference impacts how you use it, scalability, cost, especially for things like hosting websites or backups.
Understanding that object storage concept is fundamental for using S3 effectively, its scale, its durability.
Databases also get a lot of attention. Traditional relational ones, the AWS tools for them.
And the native AWS options too.
Yep. NoSQL like DynamoDB.
Great for high traffic.
Purpose-built databases, in-memory ones for speed. A real comprehensive look at your data options.
And knowing when to use which type relational for structure. NoSQL for flexibility that impacts performance, cost, everything.
Now, developers, listen up. Integration with tools like Visual Studio, VS Code.
Familiar ground.
Yeah, and how S3 fits in. Plus, SDKs, the libraries for coding against AWS services.
Makes life easier.
And the CDK, the Cloud Development Kit, for defining infrastructure with code. These really streamlined things.
That tight integration is huge for productivity. SDKs, the CDK, they handle some of the lower level complexity so devs can focus on the application logic.
And it doesn't stop there. Command line interface, the CLI.
For the power users.
And AWS's own IDE, Cloud9, that browser-based coding environment. So lots of options for how you prefer to work.
Catering to different preferences, different skill sets. Some love the CLI's flexibility, others want that integrated environment.
Another crucial bit. EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud, virtual machines.
Classic VMs.
Importantly, it guides you on when EC2 is the right choice. Like for apps needing consistent resources, running 24/7.
That's a very practical point. Even with serverless being popular, EC2 is still fundamental, especially for long-running, predictable workloads.
But maybe one of the most critical parts highlighted is migration, moving existing apps and databases to AWS.
Always a big step for organizations.
A huge undertaking. And the book focuses on it, mentioning two key tools, AWS Server Migration Service, SMS, and the Database Migration Service, DMS.
Tools designed to simplify that complex move to the cloud, reduce the hassle, the risk.
And it's not just lift and shift. It talks about modernization, too.
Going beyond just replicating what you had.
Exactly. Refactoring monoliths into microservices using the microservice extractor.
Breaking things down into smaller independent services. More agile, more resilient.
Yeah. And converting SQL code using the schema conversion tool, modernizing database interactions.
That's where the real cloud benefits kick in. Modernizing apps for cloud-native architectures. Better scale, faster development.
Finally, you can't run apps without monitoring. The book covers tools for observation, tracking performance on AWS.
Absolutely essential. Monitoring gives you that visibility to keep things healthy, performant, reliable. Logs, metrics, tracing.
Okay, let's switch gears. Book 2, Amazon Web Services for public and private sector. AWS for the public and private sector. Much shorter, 183 pages.
Right, and this one, as the title says, is aimed at companies, public sector orgs, a different lens.
More strategic.
Yeah, focusing on their specific needs, challenges, strategic thinking when adopting AWS. It's described as having a more formal, textbook-like structure, too.
Interesting. That structure sounds useful for organizational learning. Clear learning objectives at the start of chapters, summaries, and discussion questions at the end.
Exactly. Plus, tool comparisons like the first book. That pedagogical style seems really well suited for educating teams within an organization.
Consistent understanding across teams, maybe.
Precisely. And the discussion questions encourage thinking about how to apply AWS in their specific context.
Now, interestingly, the migration tools we just talked about, SMS and DMS, they show up here too.
But likely with a different focus.
Yeah, focused on organizational needs, scale, security, compliance requirements during migration.
Because for an organization, migration isn't just technical, it's strategic. Impacts operations, security, regulations. This book likely covers those broader aspects.
Development considerations are also included.
Yeah.
Mentions Cloud9, the CDK, key commands. So even in a strategic book, the practical dev tools aren't ignored.
That shows the link between strategy and execution. Leaders need to know what tools like Cloud9 and CDK offer their teams to make good decisions and implement effectively.
The video presenter made a great point. This book is valuable for both leaders grasping the strategy and the people implementing it on AWS.
Bridging that gap.
Yeah, between the high-level vision and the hands-on work.
That dual benefit is key. Ensures everyone's on the same page about AWS potential and the practical steps needed.
So what key organizational themes does it hit? Unsurprisingly, security is huge.
Always top of mind.
Including that shared responsibility model. Who's responsible for what between the organization and AWS, especially in models like software as a service?
Understanding that shared model is absolutely critical for a secure cloud environment. Your responsibilities change depending on the services you use.
Personnel training is another theme.
Hmm?
Makes sense. You need to upskill your people.
Can't just flip a switch.
No. Communication across teams or locations, compliance with laws and regulations, all vital for businesses and public sector bodies.
These non-technical parts are often just as crucial as the tech. Training, communication, compliance, ignore them at your peril.
And for the budget conscious, it covers the total cost of ownership calculator, the TCO calculator.
Ah, the TCO tool helps organizations estimate savings, ROI, comparing on-prem costs to AWS projections.
Considers capital expenditure, operational costs, agility gains too.
Yeah, it's valuable for making informed financial decisions about the cloud move.
Lastly, it touches on various networking and security tools for orgs. Amazon Virtual Private LAN,
For secure connections,
Application Discovery Service for migration planning,
profiling your existing apps.
Amazon Workmail for secure email, AWS Trusted Advisor for optimization recommendations,
Security, cost, performance checks.
AWS Systems Manager for resource management, VPC for isolated cloud sections, and AWS Service Catalog for managing approved IT services.
That's a solid set of tools covering key organizational needs. Connectivity, security, governance, operations in AWS.
All right, let's tackle the third book. Cloud Computing Quiz alles was Sie wissen müssen, a Cloud Praktiker zu werden, or Cloud Computing Quiz, everything you need to know to become a cloud practitioner.
Okay.
Now, the video presenter had some, let's say, pointed thoughts on this one.
The title alone is pretty bold, isn't it? Everything you need to know via a quiz. The presenter seemed skeptical if it could really deliver.
Yeah, quite skeptical. Pointed out that it starts basic storage units networking, but then seems to assume a lot more knowledge later on.
Jumps ahead.
Around page 200, apparently jumps into protocols like HTTP, TCP/IP without much grounding. That's a big leap for a beginner book.
Oof. Yeah, that kind of inconsistency and assumed knowledge can be really tough, discouraging for learners starting out. You need that progressive buildup.
The presenter also doubted if you could really get deep expertise, proper understanding for the cloud practitioner role in just 200 pages.
It's a fair question.
Even acknowledging that short, good tech books exist. But is it enough depth?
Yeah, conciseness is nice, but complex topics often need more explanation, examples, practice to really sink in and be applicable.
Then there were specific issues highlighted.
Yeah.
Inconsistencies, clarity problems, like a chapter title, Explanation about Data Types,
Okay.
that actually talks about data sources.
Ah, that's confusing. Misleading, even.
Definitely hinders learning if chapter titles don't match the content. Creates unnecessary roadblocks.
And the chapter endings were inconsistent, too. Some summaries, some just abrupt goodbyes.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
The presenter also questioned the humor used, felt it was questionable in a technical book promising comprehensive knowledge for a certification.
Yeah. Consistency in structure and tone is usually better for learning. Abrupt endings aren't great, and humor in tech books can be tricky, maybe distracting.
So summing up the video review of Book 3, the presenter basically advised against it.
A strong caution.
Yeah, suggesting the listeners be cautious, maybe form their own opinion, but indicating it probably doesn't live up to that everything you need to know promise.
That kind of warning from a reviewer is definitely worth noting if you're looking for solid cloud practitioner study materials.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. We've looked at these 3 Apress AWS ebooks. Book 1, Professional mit Amazon Web Services.
The big one.
Really stands out. Comprehensive, developer-focused, deep explanations, tool comparisons, insights into tech evolution. Seems like a solid choice for devs wanting a thorough grounding.
Yeah, that first book looks like a great asset for developers at any level. Structured, detailed path into AWS, practical focus, very appealing.
Then Book 2, Amazon Web Services for public and private sector. More strategic, organizational view. Hits those crucial points. Security, training, compliance, cost. Valuable for leaders and implementers in organizations.
That second one fills a critical gap. Focuses on the organizational side. Shows successful cloud adoption is more than just tech. It needs planning, business awareness.
And finally, Book 3, Cloud Computing Quiz. Ambitious title, quiz format, but seems to fall short.
According to the review, yeah. Issues with consistency, clarity, depth. A reminder to evaluate learning resources carefully.
Definitely.
The third book highlights how important it is to check reviews, get different perspectives on learning materials.
So depending on your goals deep in code, leading a team, just getting the lay of the land, these offer different paths. The first two seem genuinely valuable for their audiences.
While the third might need a more critical look.
Exactly. The best resources depend on your needs, your learning style, where you're starting from.
But having these insights into strengths and weaknesses helps you choose wisely, optimize how you learn.
And on that note, here's a final thought for you. Cloud tech evolves incredibly fast, right?
Constantly.
So what do you think? What are the best strategies to stay informed continuously without getting totally overwhelmed by all the new information? How would you tackle your own learning in this dynamic field? Something to chew on as you navigate your own cloud journey.